Hey, today I want to revisit this theme that Seishizo made a video on about a year ago, and I want to put my twist on it. The version that Seishizo showcased, it was basically impossible to run for the vast majority of people. That includes me, and if you just change the speed tuning of the team, you can drop the speed from Julie from plus 120 all the way down to plus 59. Now, I'm just gonna hop into a run and talk about the differences in how it runs. So the first wave is exactly the same. You have Sabrina moving, then Julie, then Shaina finishing off the wave. Then the second wave is also pretty much the same. You have Sabrina moving, then Julie, then Shaina, and then Luna moves and kills the boss. The third wave is also exactly the same, just like this. And on the boss, that's where we see the differences. So Sabrina, oh great, we even missed a defense break. That's gonna be interesting. This is still the same. Then we have Luna moving, just nuking the boss. And then instead of Luna taking the second turn, we have another turn of Sabrina. First of all, the two twins, they have higher multipliers together than just the Luna. And second of all, it allows you to drop the speed on Julie by like 60, which makes it significantly easier to run. Now, as you can see, my Liam is super tanky, so even if he just gets crit at this point, he just doesn't die, and he almost kills the boss from 50% HP, and this is still safe. This time I'm gonna show you the boss again, this time without a missed defense break, hopefully. Yeah, like this, and this is gonna be the happy path, so we do the skills that do the most damage, and if that happens, as you can see, the boss is clearly below 30% HP, and basically any monster that you put in this slot will have perfect AI. Now, note that this is like still 100,000 HP of the boss, so you will need something that does serious damage. I'll talk about what you can be using a bit later in the video, but for now let's just hop into the speed tuning. So here you can see the speed tuning of the original Seishizo team. So you have Sabrina that has to have 170 speed if she's on Swift and 169 if she's not. Then Julie, she needed to be plus 120 speed so that she moves in 6 tick. If she's slower, it just no longer works. You have the boss moving and it's just all gone wrong, and we don't want that. Then you have Shaina on 86 speed. Again, if she's slower, you don't have the Luna double turn. Then Luna, she has to be 60. If she's not, you don't get the double turn. And then on the Liam, the minimum speed was the same as in my team, so 45, because he never takes a turn on the mid boss. Here you can see the speed tuning that I'm proposing in this video. So you have Sabrina on exactly the same speed, so that's plus 170 if she's on Swift, or 169 if she's not on Swift. Then you have Julie. She has to be at most plus 59 speed. It's the exact same Julie that you would use for Punisher script. If she's plus 60, it breaks the team because suddenly the Sabrina moves after Liam and she no longer contributes to Liam having perfect AI, so we just want her to be slower. And then these 3 units are just all in the same speed interval between 178 combat speed and 169 combat speed. And then the Liam, again, at least 163 combat speed. So that's plus 45 on Liam, and somewhere in between plus 59 to plus 50 on your Julie, Shaina, and Luna. If you compare this to the speed tuning that we would have to use previously, it was plus 120 speed on Julie, so this is minus 60 speed. That allows you to put some serious juice towards your Julie. Then we have the Shaina, you're dropping the speed on her from at least plus 86 to at least 50, so that's 36. And then on your Luna, you can also drop your speed by 10, which just allows you to put way more damage on all of your units. Not only that, but you can also put your Julie on triple fight, because she doesn't really contribute too much damage towards the boss, and it just makes everything else easier to run. The speed requirement was the highest barrier to entry for this team. For example, for me this means that I can put so much more damage on all of my units that 99% of the time I can just get the boss towards perfect AI state for the final monster, whatever that final monster may be. So this just allows me to put various monsters in here. I tested some of them. I will get to what I would suggest using in place of Liam if you don't have Liam. The only units that would actually work are Liam, Patrick, and probably Deborah. I cannot test this with Deborah, but please, if anyone can test this with a Deborah and send me a link to it, I would be very happy. Here you can see the time distribution from all the runs that I've been running. As you can see, the vast majority of all runs are in the perfect AI range, and then 14 runs out of 560 were outside of the 26.6 second window. I did some testing not only with Liam but also with Patrick in the same spot. Here is the time distribution with Patrick. It is slightly faster on average, but it also fails a bit. That's primarily because I don't have enough damage to put the boss into perfect AI state, and so sometimes he will choose to not use his skill 2 and kill the boss. Or if you miss the defense break on your first twin hit, you will often not have enough damage, and then Patrick is just not tanky enough to survive the hit from buffed boss, and so he dies. But still, very good success rate. 3 fails in 650 runs is still better than the vast majority of teams that you can actually run, especially considering this average time we're getting. Let me go over the runes that I'm running on this team. So first we have the Sabrina. She's on Swift Fight. I put her on pretty high damage. You will need at least 170 speed on her if she's on Swift, or 169 if she's not. That's because of the rounding error of how the speed calculation works. She's on just typical artifacts with co-op damage and damage on fire and co-op damage. If you're planning on running this team with Deborah or Patrick instead of Liam, you do want to have her on 40 accuracy, 85 crit rate, and as much damage as you can with this kind of speed. Then we have the Julie. I just put her on triple fight because the minus 61 required speed just allowed me to put her on triple fight and still do her job. She's on a bunch of additional damage by attack here as well. You want to focus more on the attack than on your crit damage. You will be able to use this Julie plus Shaina combo, multiple different teams, primarily in Necro, Punisher script, and now also in Dragon. Then we have the Shaina moving. She's on very high damage set on Rage because she's just gonna be teaming up 3 times, so you want a lot of damage on her because you cannot really do that on your Sabrina because she needs to be super fast. So you just put your second best damage set on your Shaina because the best one is going towards your Luna. Again, on the artifacts you have some damage on fire, co-op damage, and more co-op damage. Shaina definitely needs to be plus 40 accuracy. It is an overkill for all the other dungeons. Then we have the Luna. She is on an insanely high damage set with some damage on fire and the same artifact and as in the previous video. She doesn't need any accuracy, but the minimum speed is plus 50. Lastly, we have the Liam moving. He only needs to have 163 combat speed to outspeed the last boss because he just doesn't take a turn anywhere else. I put him on a very tanky build, first of all because he doesn't need a lot of damage, because I just get the boss so low that if he ever uses the skill 3 he will just clear it, and so I have him on defense, crit damage, and HP, and I'm focusing primarily on rune efficiency more than anything else. So this rune is probably the worst on him, but the other runes, you have defense and attack with bunch of damage stats. Here you have damage stats plus HP. Here you have also damage stats and a lot of HP. Also a lot of HP here, and this is HP rune with a bunch of attack. You can drop the HP and defense by a bunch, but then it will start failing a bit. For the artifacts, I have minus 22% damage from fire and damage on fire, because I just want him to never die, even if he gets hit with a dot from a boss that's lower than 30% HP and he gets crit. This team is basically never ever going to fail unless Shaina misses both defense breaks. And for the other artifact, we have a lot of damage as the enemy HP is lower. That's the most important part, because when Liam takes a turn, the boss is always gonna be low HP. For other monsters that you can use in the last spot, you can use Patrick. If you get a bunch more damage on all of your other units, you can probably get away with using Shaman, with these exact runes that I showcased, I cannot really run Shaman because the boss still sometimes stays above 30% HP and Shaman just doesn't have perfect AI, and because he's not water, he will just get one shot by the boss quite often. The same goes for Roberta. There are quite a few other monsters that I was trying in this spot and none of them were working. The first one that didn't work was Brandia because she does nowhere near enough damage with just one debuff. Ikaru doesn't work for the same reason. Dalsim or Kyle also doesn't deal enough damage. I tried one run with Spectra, she used skill 3 and so I just ditched her. I tried running Ken, but even with his dungeon lead and reruning all of the other monsters, I wasn't able to get nowhere near enough damage for Ken to be able to clear this. Astar didn't work because she just doesn't deal enough damage. Jean is the same, he just doesn't deal enough damage. Lucas didn't deal enough damage. Crow doesn't deal enough damage. Seren doesn't deal enough damage, same issue. I was also trying it with Tableau and the Light Homunculus. Neither of them has perfect AI regardless of the HP status of the boss. Konamiya also doesn't work, you need slightly different speed tuning for her, but even with 2 turns of attack buff on your Shaina, this team still doesn't clear. Now I'm just gonna go through all of the runes on all of these monsters and show you some runs. I will be exploring how low you can go with the runes on all of these monsters in my follow-up video, where I just try to make this team as accessible as possible for as many people as I possibly can. If you would like to support my channel, please consider hitting the like button, commenting and subscribing, or you can just watch the video till the end, like let it play in the background to boost me in the algorithm. Thanks a lot for watching, that's it for this one, and see you in the next one.